"My mom works here," he said. "She's in a big meeting." The way he said it made it sound rehearsed, like something he'd been told many times before. Chloe heard the words echo in her mind as she looked down at the small boy standing alone in the middle of the corporate lobby. He couldn't have been more than 4 years old, clutching a badge that was clearly too big for his hands, his eyes scanning faces that never looked back. People rushed past him in tailored suits and polished shoes, voices low, phones pressed to ears. No one stopped. No one slowed down. The lobby was full, yet the boy might as well have been invisible. Chloe felt her stomach tighten. She was just an intern. She wasn't supposed to handle situations like this. She wasn't supposed to step out of line again. The boy stood quietly, as if he had learned that causing a scene wouldn't help. He didn't cry or pull at anyone's sleeve. He simply waited. Chloe noticed how still he was, too still for someone his age. It wasn't patience. It was practice. The kind children develop when adults are always busy somewhere else. Helping him could cost her everything. She had already been warned once for breaking protocol, for being too involved, too emotional. Security was nearby. Cameras watched every corner. The safest choice was to step away and call someone else. The right choice didn't feel safe at all. Chloe hesitated, memories rising uninvited, of being a child no one stopped for, no one noticed. She looked at the boy again, standing patiently in a world that didn't slow down for small people. And in that moment, before she knew who his mother was, before she understood the consequences, Chloe made a decision that would change far more than her own day. Chloe had learned to stay invisible. As an intern, blending into the background was part of the job. You watched, you listened, and you never made yourself the center of anything. The corporate building rewarded efficiency, not empathy. And yet, standing there in the lobby, she felt anything but detached. She glanced at the badge in the boy's hands, noticing how tightly he held it, like it was the only proof he belonged there. His feet barely touched the floor, his backpack resting awkwardly against his legs. He looked like someone dropped into a world that wasn't built for him, expected to understand rules no one had explained. Chloe thought about the email she still hadn't answered, the deadline creeping closer with every passing minute. She thought about the warning she'd received weeks earlier, a reminder to stay in her lane, to follow procedure, to avoid unnecessary involvement. The memory sat heavy in her chest, urging her to walk away. Around them, the building moved on. Elevators opened and closed. Laughter echoed briefly from somewhere upstairs. Meetings began without them. The boy shifted his weight, eyes darting toward the elevators again, as if he knew exactly where his mother was, and how unreachable she felt. Chloe took a slow breath. Helping him meant choosing uncertainty over safety, humanity over protocol. She didn't know his name. She didn't know his mother. All she knew was that the moment was already asking something of her, and that pretending not to notice would be its own kind of decision. Chloe checked the time on her phone and felt the familiar spike of anxiety. She was already running late. Every minute in that building mattered, especially for someone whose badge still felt temporary. Interns weren't remembered for good intentions, they were remembered for mistakes. She looked around again, half expecting someone else to step in. A manager. Security. Anyone with authority. But the lobby moved like a river around a rock, flowing smoothly while ignoring the obstacle in its path. The boy stayed exactly where he was, small fingers wrapped around the badge, eyes fixed on the elevators. "Do you know which floor your mom is on?" Chloe asked. The boy nodded quickly. "The high one," he said. It wasn't helpful, but it was honest. Chloe exhaled slowly. Of course it was the high one. That was where decisions were made, far away from places like this. She straightened up, feeling the weight of being watched even when no one was looking. Cameras blinked quietly above them. Security stood near the entrance, distracted but present. The rules were clear. Lost children were not her responsibility. Walking away would be easy. Clean. Safe. But safety had a way of disguising itself as indifference. Chloe remembered the meeting where she'd been warned, the polite smile, the carefully chosen words. Stay focused. Follow protocol. Don't overstep. She had nodded then, just like she was expected to. The boy shifted closer to her, not touching, just enough to signal trust. She said to wait, he murmured. Chloe felt something tighten in her chest. Waiting was what adults always asked children to do. Wait quietly. Wait patiently. Wait until Sokmyeon had time for them. She made her decision without announcing it. No dramatic moment. No declaration. Just a small step forward that made turning back harder. Okay, she said gently. Let's find her. The boy looked up, surprised, then relieved. Chloe crouched to his level. What's your name? Liam, he replied. I'm Chloe. Saying it out loud felt like crossing an invisible line. She stood, already imagining the questions she'd have to answer later. Already accepting the risk. They started toward the elevator bank, Chloe walking slightly ahead, shielding him instinctively from the rush of people. Her heart beat faster with every step. She didn't know where this would end, only that leaving him behind would have stayed with her far longer. As the elevator doors opened, Chloe pressed the button for the upper floors and glanced down at Liam. We'll take it one step at a time, she said. The doors closed behind them, sealing the choice she'd made, and beginning a search neither of them yet understood. Sarah arrived early, as always. The conference room lights were still dim when she set her laptop on the table and connected it to the screen. She liked the quiet before people arrived, the last moment where the narrative was still hers to control. She reviewed the agenda without hurry. Every point had been debated, revised, sharpened. The project wasn't risky, complacency was. Sarah was known for dismantling weak arguments without raising her voice. That was why people feared her. Not because she was cruel, but because she was precise. Outside the room, assistants moved faster than usual. Coffee appeared. Chairs were aligned. No one joked when her name was mentioned. Sarah didn't demand that silence, it followed her naturally. Expectations did that. She checked the numbers again. Revenue projections, market positioning, growth potential. Solid. Yet something felt unfinished. A gap she couldn't immediately name. Sarah frowned slightly, scanning the slides once more. To her, leadership meant responsibility before comfort. She didn't soften data to spare feelings. She didn't delay decisions because they were difficult. That reputation had traveled ahead of her long before this meeting was scheduled. The first guests began to arrive, senior partners, external stakeholders, people whose opinions mattered. Polite greetings were exchanged. Sarah nodded, professional, already mentally 3 steps ahead. Down the hall, Chloe stood frozen at her desk, refreshing the shared drive again and again. The competitor analysis wasn't there. The trend forecasts, gone. She felt her stomach drop. She remembered the night spent cross-checking data, validating sources, making sure nothing could be questioned. She searched folders, emails, backups. Nothing. The clock on her screen blinked forward mercilessly. Chloe straightened her shoulders as footsteps echoed outside the conference room. Panic wouldn't help. It never did. Through the glass, she saw people taking their seats, laptops opening, the meeting beginning without her missing work. Chloe inhaled slowly, forcing her expression neutral. Interns weren't supposed to disrupt. Interns weren't supposed to fail. As the door closed and the presentation started, Chloe sat back down, hands folded tightly in her lap. Somewhere in the building were the documents Sarah needed, and Chloe had no idea yet how that absence would pull her into the center of everything. The elevator ride felt longer than it should have. Numbers climbed in silence while Liam stood perfectly still beside Chloe, his hand hovering near the rail but never touching it. When the doors opened, the air felt different, quieter, heavier, like a place where mistakes were remembered. The first challenge came immediately. A glass desk blocked their path, manned by a receptionist who barely looked up. "Can I help you?" she asked, already distracted. Chloe hesitated for half a second, then answered calmly. "We're looking for someone in project management." The receptionist frowned. "Do you have an appointment?" Chloe shook her head. "It's urgent." She didn't elaborate. Liam looked up at the woman and said, simply, "It's my mom." The receptionist paused, finally noticing him. Her expression softened, but rules were rules. "Meetings can't be interrupted," she said. "Especially today." Chloe felt the familiar pressure in her chest, the sense of being too small in a space built for authority. She thanked the receptionist and guided Liam away before more questions could be asked. As they walked down the corridor, she scanned the doors, reading names, searching for something she couldn't yet see. The second challenge arrived in the form of a man stepping out of an office, badge clipped neatly, confidence effortless. He glanced at Liam, then at Chloe. "Is there a problem?" he asked. His tone wasn't unkind, just efficient. The kind that expected compliance. Chloe explained quickly, carefully. "Lost child. Mother in a meeting." The man listened, arms crossed. "Security should handle this," he said. Liam stiffened at the word. Chloe noticed immediately. "He doesn't want security," she replied. "He just wants his mom." The man studied Liam for a moment, then sighed. "She's in a critical review," he said. Interrupting her could have consequences. Chloe met his gaze, steady despite the fear creeping in. "So could not finding her," she answered. It was the most direct she'd ever been in that building. There was a pause. Long enough for Chloe to think she'd gone too far. Then the man stepped aside. "End of the hall," he said quietly. "Conference room C." He walked away without another word. They moved quickly now, past offices with frosted glass and muted voices. Liam's steps grew faster, more certain. He pointed ahead before Chloe could ask. "That one," he whispered, eyes fixed on a door where several people sat around a long table. Chloe stopped just short of the conference room, heart pounding. Through the glass, she saw a woman at the head of the table, composed, focused, unmistakably in charge. Liam squeezed her hand. "That's my mom," he said. And in that moment, Chloe understood they had found Sarah, but the hardest part was only beginning. Sarah sat at the head of the table, posture straight, voice steady. The room listened when she spoke. Charts glowed on the screen behind her, numbers aligning neatly with every point she made. This meeting mattered, not just for the project, but for her position. She had worked too hard to lose control now. She didn't check her phone. She never did during meetings. Emergencies were filtered through assistants, protocols, systems she trusted. Work was where she felt predictable, contained. Emotions were easier to manage when they had deadlines. Around the table, executives nodded, questioned, challenged. Sarah responded without hesitation. No one would have guessed she hadn't slept much the night before. Or that she'd rushed out that morning, reminding herself she'd pick Liam up later and make it up to him somehow. She told herself this was temporary. That the long hours were necessary. That stability came first. Parenting, she believed, was about providing, even if it meant being absent more than she liked. When a soft knock interrupted the room, irritation flickered across her face before she masked it. Interruptions weren't tolerated here. She turned slightly as the door opened. A young woman stepped in, clearly nervous but composed. "I'm sorry," Chloe said, holding a folder. "I was told to bring these up. They were left on your table at home." Sarah frowned, confusion flashing briefly across her eyes. "My husband?" Sarah asked instinctively, then froze. The word hung in the air, wrong and sharp. Chloe felt it immediately. Her heart skipped, but she didn't retreat. She held the folder out gently, as if it mattered less than what followed. Before Sarah could speak again, a small figure appeared from behind Chloe. Liam stepped forward, eyes wide, taking in the room full of strangers. Sarah's breath caught. "Liam," she whispered, standing abruptly. Chairs shifted. Voices fell silent. Liam reached her and tugged at the sleeve of her jacket. He leaned in close, just enough for her to hear. "Mom," he whispered, "the daddy went away. He didn't come back." The words weren't dramatic. They were factual, the way children speak about things they've accepted too early. Sarah knelt instantly, pulling him into her arms as the room seemed to disappear around them. She didn't care who was watching anymore. Chloe stood quietly by the door, heart pounding, knowing she had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Mother and son were together now, but what that would mean, for all of them, was only just beginning. The room remained silent longer than any presentation ever had. Sarah stayed kneeling in front of Liam, one hand on his back, the other resting against the floor as if grounding herself. Around them, executives exchanged looks, not annoyed, not sympathetic, just unsure of how to proceed. Sarah stood slowly, guiding Liam to a chair beside her. "Give me a minute," she said to the room, her voice controlled but altered. No one objected. This wasn't authority, it was gravity. She turned to Chloe, eyes searching. "Why are you here?" Chloe swallowed. Her hands trembled slightly, but she didn't hide them. "I didn't plan this," she said. He was alone." The words felt insufficient, but they were the truth. She looked at Liam briefly, then back at Sarah. She took a breath. "When I was his age," Chloe continued, "no one stopped for me. The room seemed to narrow. I learned early that if you're quiet enough, adults won't notice when you're lost. Today, I noticed." A man at the table shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't part of the agenda. Sarah nodded once, slowly, absorbing it. "And the documents?" she asked, not accusing, clarifying. Chloe lifted the folder. "They're real. I found them in the shared drive. Market analysis, competitor benchmarks, updated projections. You were missing the final dataset. I thought, if I was going to interrupt, I should at least bring something useful." Sarah opened the folder, scanning quickly. Her expression changed, subtle, professional. She turned to the screen, adjusted a slide, and incorporated the data without comment. The meeting resumed, altered but intact. Questions were answered. Decisions were made. When it ended, no applause followed. Just chairs moving, laptops closing. Chloe waited, expecting consequences. They came, just not the ones she'd imagined. Later that afternoon, Chloe was informed her internship wouldn't be terminated early. Instead, she was reassigned, fewer approvals, simpler tasks, less exposure. And she would report directly to Sarah. Not as a reward. As responsibility. Chloe left the building that day unsure whether she had won or lost something. What she knew was this: she had stopped when no one else did. And sometimes, that was the only thing that truly changed the direction of a life. Nothing dramatic changed overnight. Sarah began leaving a little earlier on certain days, blocking her calendar without explanations. Meetings were still demanding, expectations still high, but there was space where there hadn't been before. Chloe noticed it in the quiet adjustments, simpler tasks delegated to her, fewer layers of approval, the trust of being asked instead of instructed. She still carried the record of her mistake, the warnings didn't disappear, but neither did the respect. People looked at her differently now. Not as someone careless, but as someone who had chosen to see. As the year drew to a close, the building slowed. One evening, long after most floors had gone dark, Sarah and Chloe sat across from each other, sharing the kind of conversation that only happens when urgency fades. Chloe mentioned she would be leaving soon, heading back to the city where her father lived. She said she'd been talking for months with someone online, someone kind, steady. Sarah listened quietly, a familiar ache surfacing at the mention of distance and time. She didn't interrupt it. This wasn't her moment. "Does he have a name?" Sarah asked. Chloe smiled softly. "John." The days passed the way they always do, without announcements, without closure neatly labeled. People kept walking through the lobby, elevators kept rising, choices kept being made quietly. Some were noticed. Most weren't. But sometimes, someone stops, and that is enough to change what comes next.